there. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here because let's be honest, boundaries have become a complete social buzzword. Am I right? But here's the deal. Most people are still sitting out there exhausted, overextended, and stuck in patterns that drain them. Even though they say, I have strong boundaries. I'm working on my boundaries. So we got to ask ourselves, why is this happening? And so I'm going to give you the answers right here in this quick workshop. Setting boundaries isn't the hard part. Honoring them is. So this space right now, we're going to go through a really quick real world guide to doing boundaries differently. I hate all of this. Well, hello there. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here because we have to be honest about this one, right? Boundaries. What a complete buzzword, especially when we're in online spaces, right? Like everybody's got boundaries, got to work on my boundaries, but it's just this social norm. And everybody's still walking around exhausted. Everybody's still walking around way overextended. Everybody's still walking around stuck in patterns that are draining them. And so we got to scratch our head a little bit and go, well, why? And I get it. That's some of you also. Might not be you. I don't want to put it on you, but you're here for a reason. Anyway, so here's the why. I'm going to tell you. The reason is because setting a boundary isn't the hard part. Honoring it is. Now, in this quick power-packed workshop, I'm going to bring you a real-world guide to doing boundaries differently. Okay, so we're going to walk through the 4 pillars from the March series, but that I've been utilizing for over 12 years so that you can shift from, I know I should set boundaries, to I live with them, I lead through them every day. So, excuse me. Let's dive in. Okay. So in the first week of March, in the Insight and Impact Focus Group, we started to really rethink these boundaries. Okay. So I'm going to clean it up for you. What boundaries actually are by telling you what they're not. They're not walls. They're not ultimatums. And they're definitely not about just saying no. Boundaries are meant to be filters. They're meant to be bendable, flexible, pliable, movable. Because they help protect your energy, your time, and your values. They're going to define how others engage with you and how you're going to show up for yourself. So I mentioned we use a 4-part filtration system. Okay. So I want to give you a little bit of a visual that all of my clients tend to truly enjoy. Because if we get into what I brought up earlier, the buzzword, the pop psychology, pop culture, visual of boundaries is that they're these hard, fast, solid lines that you can't cross, which by definition is a limit or a limitation. So we back our boundary system up with limits and limitations. But if you were to create a boundary for a family of goats, right? And you put them in this boundary system and you put it there and it was immovable. You couldn't pick it up and move it over here. You couldn't make it a triangle, or you couldn't bring it over here and have it be a circle. And it wasn't movable, bendable, flexible to fit between trees, right? Along a bank or whatever, right? Like those goats are going to starve in a hard, rigid structure. So you don't want your goats to starve. If I can give you any kind of a visual to help you, right? Like we want a bendable, flexible, pliable, penetratable, at times, energy system that is right filtering things. Okay, so that's all I got time for today. But hopefully that gives you the concept, because we use that 4-part filtration system. Internal boundaries, right? How you manage your own habits, your own self-talk, but also what you send outward, right? So that you're mindful of how much you're sharing, how much you're giving, how much, right? Like, what am I about to say? And is what I'm about to say indicative of how I want to see myself and how I want to be received, right? Boom. Then we have your external boundaries. Okay, the external boundaries is how you relate to others. It's how much of their words, thoughts, actions, whatever, am I going to let in? How much of the energy, the anger, the irritability, or whatever it is, right? Like how much of it am I going to let in? Because it truly doesn't belong to me. Whoop, I'm going to keep it out there, right? So that external boundary may be a little bit stronger. Then we have our temporal boundary. This is how you protect your energy, how you protect your emotional space, how you protect your time, right? Time and energy. And then the physical boundary. This is for your physical self, your spatial needs, but also how you are experiencing your environments. Okay. So most people struggle with 1 or 2 of these. So here's your first checkpoint. Okay. Ask yourself, which one do I let slide the most often? Because guess what? That's your starting place for growth. I take other people's words to heart. If you frequently say, oh, he makes me feel, she makes me feel, you need that external boundary work. And you know what? And the internal one also. Anyway, we don't have time to go. It's a system, right? It's all connected. But ask yourself, which one do I let slide most often? And start with that one. Okay. Now, here's the truth. Or some more of the truth. Right? Our boundaries are only as strong as our ability to stand behind them. So if you lack confidence in what you're saying, in your ability to be open to receiving other people's input or whatever it is, right? If you lack the confidence, if you second guess yourself, if you over explain, that's a big one. And or if you avoid discomfort, your boundary system is going to collapse under the pressure. It's just going to crumble. Now, I do want to make this recommendation here, okay? Like, we don't fix any of that by being louder. We fix all of that by building inner certainty, okay? So in other words, we got to work on that confidence, okay? So inner certainty, confidence. Ask yourself a couple of questions and write it down. Do I trust myself to make decisions that protect my well-being? Okay. Do I trust myself to make decisions that protect my well-being? If you say yes to everybody else at your own expense, you want to ask yourself, how honest are you being with yourself, right? Can I say no without apologizing? Oh my God, I'm so sorry, but I have to say no. No. Do I hold my boundaries when others push back? Meaning, right? I'm not going to go, oh yeah, you know what? I was so wrong to protect myself from that. No, it's not. But anyway, it's okay. It just means that this is your growth edge. I teach my clients to anchor in 3 core elements. So I'm going to give those to you right now. Okay. Number 1, clarity. Be specific. Know your boundary before you try to express it. Now, again, in my full practice, we go into this much deeper because, again, we have that system that we back with limits and limitations. So I'm kind of cross using the word boundary here to stay relatable to you. Okay. So boundaries, limits, limitations. Am I specific? Am I clear? Do I know why I'm keeping that out here? Do I know why I'm not emotionally getting invested? Do I know why I'm not allowing this whatever in, right? Do I know why I'm saying no? Number 2 is calmness. Speak it without over-explaining. Just calmly. No over-explaining, no guilt, and no frustration. So, right, that internal filter. We don't open our mouth until we're ready, till we have complete clarity. We can present with calmness. And the last one, consistency. Don't be a weeble wobble, right? Like, don't wobble. People respond to the energy behind your words. When you're rooted in your personal power, your boundary system, the limits and limitations that back them up, will start to speak for you. Now, of course, we got to have some communication skills, right? Because before we can communicate all of this, we need to understand that people need to understand us. So if they can't hear us or understand what we're trying to articulate, they're going to have trouble hearing. And so this is where a lot of people struggle. They avoid conversation, they over apologize, or they deliver the message with so much tension that it creates conflict. So we use this simple formula, and it's an assertive boundary formula. Okay, meaning I can say, wow, that sounds really important to you. I'm not sure how I think and feel about it. I'm going to reserve responding for right now, right? Like, that's being clear. That's being concise. That's, I don't really feel like getting in an argument right now. So I'm gonna kind of hold off until I can articulate my thoughts in a way that makes me feel attractive, makes me see myself as an insightful, thoughtful being, whatever it is, right? So assertive boundary formula is this. Number 1, state it clearly. Number 2, and this is important, explain briefly, but only if needed. And then number 3 is hold it without justifying. So what that might sound like is, I don't take calls after 8 p.m. If it's urgent, send me a message. Okay. Notice there wasn't any explaining. It was just, I stated it clearly and I held it, right? No justification. I don't take calls after 8. If it's urgent, send me a message. Or, I'm not available for extra work this week because I'm prioritizing rest. You don't need to explain your trauma. You don't need to defend your worth. You certainly don't need to wait for permission. And all you got to do is be clear, direct, and firm. And when people push back, which they will, you just get to stay grounded. I understand this is probably uncomfortable for you right now. Mom's never exercised any kind of, boundaries, limits, or limitations. I owe it to myself right now. Right? So stay grounded, because you don't owe anyone your peace. Now, to wrap this up, okay, I know this is probably going on longer than we're supposed to, but long-term integration. This is where most people drop the ball. And this isn't just with boundaries, this is just in life, right? Like, we have that all in, all out diet culture because people want the quick, fast results, the hard, fast drop 20, whatever it is. And then what? You drop the ball. You get complacent, whatever. And here you go. So this is where people drop the ball. They have one boundary conversation and they think it's done, right? Like, boundaries aren't a one-time deal, right? They're not a one-time moment. They're not I'm drawing a line in the sand and I don't ever have to think about it again. Our boundary system is part of us and it needs to become a lifestyle. So for long-term success, you need to have a few more things. Number one, alignment. You got to ask yourself, is my boundary system reflective of my values and my priorities? Number two, consistency. Am I utilizing my system every time, all the time, everywhere I go? And am I adjusting it to suit and serve me in those spaces? Or am I only using it when it's convenient? Or am I only using it when I go, wow, I need those, right? Because I used them, it worked for that week, and then I forgot all about them. And so now I got to bring them back in. Anyway, adaptability. Has something changed that requires a boundary update? Right? Does the system need updating? An oil change, whatever. And number four, are you honoring this boundary before expecting others to? Because let's be real, right? Our expectations of others are just ours. Okay. So another thing to be completely upfront, open, and honest with yourself about, guilt is going to come up. You're going to feel selfish. You might worry about how others are going to perceive you. But I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I willing to disappoint others? Or am I going to keep betraying myself? Because you can't live aligned and emotionally exhausted at the same time. So your long-term challenge here is to pick one boundary. I say pick your weakest link and commit to the next 30 days. Strengthening it, right? You want to cultivate, nurture, and condition it so that it can function with your other ones. Get it working as a well-oiled machine, and then you can expand it and make it bigger, stronger, better, faster, make multiple versions, whatever. So, but track, right? Track how often you hold it, track how often you cave, watch what it does to your energy, your confidence, and your clarity. Okay. Remember, boundaries aren't about being hard. They're about being clear. So when you know what you need and you communicate it with confidence, everything in your world starts to shift. You become more peaceful, more respectful, more free. This is the real work of boundaries. And you're already doing it. So proud of you for just being here, for the growth that you're seeking and the growth that you're stepping into. So now go reinforce what you've claimed. I'll see you next time.